Diabetes has reached global epidemic proportions. Every minute, 3 people die from this disease. In the 1990s, it was the 15th leading cause of death worldwide. Since 2019, the number of deaths has increased over 7 times, taking diabetes to 7th on that list. So what exactly is diabetes and how did we get to this stage? More importantly, what can we do going forward? To answer these questions, we first need to understand how our body generates energy to survive. Glucose, commonly known as sugar, is our body's primary source of energy. We get most of our glucose from food, especially those rich in carbohydrates. For our body cells to access and convert glucose into energy, it needs a bit of help. That's where insulin comes in, a hormone created in the beta cells of the pancreas. Insulin's primary purpose is to allow glucose in the blood to be absorbed by the cells for energy production. Without insulin, glucose can't enter our cells and remains in our bloodstream, causing high blood sugar, which eventually leads to diabetes. So, diabetes is a condition where our body's ability to produce enough insulin is impaired, or our body is unable to notice the change in glucose levels and does not release the right amount of insulin at the appropriate time. Breaking it down further, there are 2 main types of diabetes, Type 1 and Type 2.
All this interact in a very complex situation. Type 1 diabetes, roughly about 5% of the total population. Those are the patients, they cannot produce insulin in our body to control the blood glucose. Type 2 patients, actually our body can produce insulin, sometimes may produce more insulin. However, the production of the insulin is delayed, and then we have high blood glucose. And probably 95% are the type 2 diabetes. Once you are diabetic, it's like a horse out of the barn. It is out of control.
Poorly managed diabetes can lead to a host of long-term complications, including blindness, kidney failure, lower limb amputation, strokes, and cardiovascular disease. And while diabetes is a global epidemic, there's one country that's seen an explosion in the number of patients suffering from the disease.
Out of, in the whole world, right, we have 450 million diabetics, and then in China, we get 120 million diabetics.
Nearly 1 in 4 of all adult diabetes sufferers are in China, making it the diabetes capital of the world. In the 1980s, less than 1% of the Chinese population were said to have diabetes. By 2014, that number had jumped to more than 10%. This chronic disease has also become one of China's main causes of death, killing over 843,000 people in 2017, which is 20% of the global deaths caused by diabetes. So, why are so many people suffering from diabetes in China? Some experts point to the nation's strong economic growth, coupled with unhealthy diets and reduced physical activity, as major risk factors in developing type 2 diabetes, with more than 1/3 of adults in China overweight. Yet compared with the United States, where a much higher proportion are overweight, China's death rate from diabetes is much greater.
The situation in China is actually quite different compared with the Western country. For example, it's only 39% of our people know they're diabetic. The treatment percentage is also around 38 or 39%. So it's only 38 or 39% of the diabetes patients receive the treatment. Within the number of treatment people, only get 45% of them able to control their blood glucose.
Diabetes is currently an incurable, chronic, and progressive condition. This has created a huge anti-diabetic market in China. Many patients rely on regular blood glucose monitoring and drug treatments to control their blood sugar levels and reduce the risk of complications. However, these treatments can be costly, and fundamentally, they're not targeting the underlying cause of type 2 diabetes, which has led to the growing number of diabetes sufferers in China and around the world. Ideally, the medication that people use needs to restore the body's ability to automatically regulate its own blood sugar levels, not only lower it when it's high.
On this whole, we have new technologies evolving. Transplantation of pancreas, right? Stem cell technology. And then I think we are now at the stage of getting the breakthrough to treat diabetes, especially the type 2 diabetes.
With our current medical solutions, the rate of diabetes in China and the world continues to grow.
It's not just the technology. Technology is important, but we have to know diabetes is a complicated disease, and our current medication is based on a very simple, ancient, old technology, just testing blood glucose level. New diagnostic tool or monitoring technology need to be in place, and then to prevent diabetes from the impaired glucose tolerance moving to diabetes, or from obesity moving to diabetes. Our challenge is to stop the diabetes progression into a more complicated diabetes complication, and then really provide the health benefit to the community.
China's diabetic population is expected to grow to 183 million by 2045. Experts urge an entire revamping to all aspects of the conversation: how we talk about the disease, how we look to treat the disease, and what needs to happen to prevent its spread. Whatever the future brings, changing the way we try to tackle this disease will undoubtedly make a huge difference to the lives of millions of people worldwide.